Welcome to episode 88 of the Forward from 50 podcast, where we interview people over 50 who are pursuing new direction for their lives. It's an opportunity for men and women to tell their stories, their way, and in their own words. I'm Greg Gerber, the founder of Forward from 50, and your host for today's show. Today I'm interviewing the founder of a website devoted to helping baby boomers to leave better legacies to their children and the communities in which they live. Marc Joseph is the co-founder of babyboomer.org, a website developed to help people born between 1945 and 1964 to gather information, learn together, and support one another. He came up with the idea after writing a children's book titled I Don't Want to Turn 3. While promoting the book, Marc discovered a third of baby boomers are not involved with their grandchildren at all. The website plays a dual role in helping younger generations to figure out what makes baby boomers so unique. Marc said baby boomers need to give serious thought about what they will leave behind for future generations. To tell us more about what prompted him to start babyboomer.org, please welcome co-founder Marc Joseph to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Marc. I really appreciate the time. You are a co-founder of babyboomer.org. How did you come up with this idea?
The idea really came out of my children's book. I wrote a book called I Don't Want to Turn 3, and it's a true story about my 6 grandkids. And so when I went on to promote it and talk about it and so forth, it became very evident to me that the baby boomer generation, the grandparents of these kids that I wrote this book for, are not really involved in the raising of the grandkids. I found out as I was talking to people that a third of us, 30% of us, that's 1 out of every 3. If I'm sitting in a room, that means the one on the left or the right, they're not involved in the raising of their grandkids. They say, this part of our generation says, hey, I raised some great kids. I'll let them raise the grandkids. I sense that I've got to get this generation more involved in how we are leaving our legacy. How are we leaving the next generation and making sure that they're better than we ever were? And that was really how the babyboomer.org started, because it was a place for us to talk about for the baby boomer generation. And I'm sure your audience knows the baby boomers are born between 1946 and 1964. So there's an 18-year span on that. But for the baby boomer generation to gather together and not only look at what we did in the past, all the music and the movies and so forth that we have, but talk about what we're doing now. Retirement, travel, playing pickleball, all the things, investing, trying to figure out. And then what we got to worry about in the future, Alzheimer's, dementia. So that is why we built this site, was a place for our generation to gather and really learn together.
Is there a cost to be a member?
We built this site so that anyone can come to the site. What's interesting is, as we built the site, we did it mainly for baby boomers, but we found that our audience is expanding not only baby boomers, but baby boomer kids and their grandkids, because the younger generations are trying to figure us out.
Really? We've been around for so long and people still can't figure us out?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Baby boomers have changed the dynamic of American culture since its inception. That big wave of population going through the culture has made so many changes.
When you think about it, the baby boomer generation is as diverse as the generations before and after us, as far as religion goes and politics and ideas and so forth. But the one thing that we have in common as baby boomers is we have this common shared connected experience, because when we were growing up, there were only 3 television stations. We all had landlines, so we all got the same information. And when we were growing up, when you think about it, the Kennedys were assassinated, so was Martin Luther King. We had the landing on the moon when we were growing up. We had the birth control became very widespread during our generation. Vietnam happened on both sides, whether you believed it or not. It was there. We had riots in the streets. We all grew up on the same music: Elvis, the Beach Boys, Beatles, and Three Dog Night, Association, Supremes, all the great music we were growing up, and all the movies we had, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Jaws, or any really Uber movie of the day, Animal House, Star Wars, Godfather, all these shared experiences we have. That's the commonality of our generation. And that's why it's so fun to be building the site.
That's right. The shared experiences are the key because we have so many stories to tell ourselves that we really need the opportunity to get out there and share them with other people. And it is surprising when you said that 30% of baby boomers are not involved at all in raising their grandkids.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that we're building the site because, again, going back to what are we going to leave behind?
Hmm.
Uh, no matter how wealthy we are, we can't take it with us. It just goes on to the next generation. What are we going to leave behind? And if you think about it, this youngest generation, kids that are 0 to 10 years old right now, they are going to be the greatest generation that this country has ever produced. And one of the reasons is as soon as they come out of the womb, they're on the internet. They got cell phones. They are so much more well educated than we ever were, that they're going to be so much smarter than we ever were. So we have this opportunity to help shape this youngest generation. That's one of the reasons I wrote a children's book, but to help shape them because we as grandparents and parents need to show them all the other things in life, how to get outside, what to do, how to read books, how to communicate with each other beyond what they're learning off the internet and from their cell phones. So that's a big challenge of ours. And that's one of the things we as this generation need to do.
A third of the children might not have any contact with their grandparents. I bet a sizable portion of children are being raised by their grandparents.
Yes. Last time I read it was 2.4 million. That's a lot of kids.
That's incredible. So,
Yeah.
while some parents or grandparents aren't having any contact with their grandkids, others are serving as their parents. And
Yeah.
that kind of defines the baby boomer generation, right? As the sandwich generation now. As soon
Oh,
as we
yeah.
get done raising our own kids, we start taking care of our parents.
Exactly. And for us that are involved, and for those that need to get involved of raising our kids, a simple thing of just reading books to your grandkids is something that we all should be doing. Obviously, parents should be doing that too. There's all kinds of benefits with our generation in passing on the reading of books to kids. And you think about it, my book, it takes you 20 minutes to read, so it's not a big deal. But it gives you a chance to really take a kid, and I'm looking at 2, 3, 4, 5 year olds, and put them on your lap and sit down and open up a book. And you think about what are the benefits of us as the baby boomer generation reading books to our kids?
Mhm.
One of the benefits is bonding.
Right.
It gives us a nice chance to spend some time together. You got 20 minutes, it's only 20 minutes. You got a chance to spend together. It helps bond, get that feeling for these kids. Another reason that we need to be reading books to these kids is that it supports listening skills.
Mhm.
Now, you and I both know that listening skills, number one skill we need to have. You as a podcaster, you got to listen so that you can ask the right questions. I in the business world have to listen to the customers so we can produce the right things. Listening skills is the greatest skill that we have. And we can embed that into our children as we just spend 20 minutes with them because it requires them to listen. Another skill that reading books to our grandchildren is it creates a cognitive and language development. There are all kinds of words in these books that kids don't understand, so you can explain it to them.
Mhm.
In fact, there's books I've been reading in the kids' book that I don't understand the words. I got to go look them up. So it creates that sense that that early age that we give them cognitive and language development. And then another reason is it helps with their attention span. When you're 2, 3, 4 years old, you're bouncing off the wall all day. You get them in your lap for 20 minutes. Yeah, it gives them a chance to concentrate, little self-discipline skills. That's what it does. Because if you think about what is one of the things that we as grandparents and baby boomers need to do in leaving our legacy is it's necessary for us to teach children how to think, not what to think. As they get older, they're going to learn but we need to go through the processes of teaching them how to think and exposing them to books and having them read and having them ask questions. That's how we can start that influence of teaching kids how to think.
That's a great point, Mark, because how to think is something that kids aren't really taught in school anymore. They're memorizing facts, so they're told what to think about, but not how to process those facts. So not only reading to your grandkids, but having them read to you when they get older helps improve their communication skills, I would imagine.
The reason why we should be all reading books to these kids at that early age, again, going to the idea that we're teaching them how to think, is before you sit down and read the book, just ask your child, what do you think will happen in this book? Because we got to create that imagination. We have to create the thought process of let them think beyond what they're seeing. So even before you open the book, you should be asking, what do you think is going to happen in the book? And then when you're reading the book, you should say to the kids, who are the characters in this book? What is the setting? Do you understand that? Again, teaching them how to think, teaching them to really get involved in this part of their learning process. Does anything in this book sound familiar to you? That's a great question to ask your kids. Let them use their imagination, put themselves in that. And then obviously you should ask them at the end of the book, much like you should do every night at dinner time. You ask them, how was your day? What's the best part of your day? What was your favorite part of this book and why is the favorite part of the book? Again, we can use these simple 20 minutes of reading kids' books for all kinds of ways to make this generation greater than we ever.
That's excellent advice, Mark. What is it that babyboomer.org offers that AARP does not?
Obviously, we don't have any advertising on the site and, we don't ask for dues and all that kind of stuff. So that's one thing. But what we have done, and again, if anybody wants to come to the site, it's babyboomer.org, is we have pulled together 729 contributors, experts in their field, who we've got 145,000 pages on the site. We've got 127,000 different podcast episodes on the site. So we pulled together all of these experts in their field to submit every day information. The site changes every single day because the newest information from our contributors and experts from around the country is coming in every single day, whatever the latest information. And so that's how we've built the site, to make sure that we've got great information. We've got 350 different departments in the site. There's everything from retirement to travel to Alzheimer's to dementia to emotions, and then the big part is leaving your legacy. We've got all these different departments, and that we have experts in all those departments that are putting in submitting and putting in what they think is the most recent information. So that's what we're about. We're about making sure that we are educating our generation and anyone else who comes to the site into what is the latest information, and then what are you going to do with it? Are you going to pass it on? Are you going to share that with others?
That's a good point. I know that AARP is very involved in advocacy and legislation and things like that, but I don't see that on your site as much. It's more about, like you said, telling stories and conveying the information, especially from one generation to the younger generations.
I guess we're doing what we're telling with our children is necessarily teach them how to think, but not what to think. So we're putting all the information up there. You can figure out what to think. We're just telling you, here's what you got to think about.
I have to thank you for making me one of your contributors. That was quite the honor. How do you normally find these contributors?
We have a pretty good vetting process. In other words, we are looking, as we build different departments, we are looking for who we think are the best. So we have a department that's over 50. There's a whole department out there. And so what I do is I find what I consider the best experts around the country and take a look at what they're doing, making sure that it fits into what we want, the messages we want. And then I reach out to them to get them onto the site.
So they are sharing all kinds of expertise, like you had mentioned before. There are courses on your site for kicking the sugar habit to using technology to caring for people with dementia. So people can not only read articles, but they can educate themselves on those important topics.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's all about. Again, because you can't take it with you. So let's share now so that whatever we learn, we can just make these other generations much smarter and better than we ever.
I agree. You had written several books. One of them was this children's book, I Don't Want to Turn 3. Tell us about that.
What the book is all about is it all started during COVID. I was lucky enough to have my 6 grandkids at my house for about 6 weeks altogether because of COVID. Everybody just showed up. So I had a chance to be around them. And all 6 of these kids had different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that they had in common was a sense of curiosity and how excited I got when they accomplished something. Watching them grow year to year and how they interact with each other really is the basis for this book. Yeah. What goes through a toddler's mind, the parents are desperate to understand. When does a toddler understand the difference between me and us? And this is how our family found out all about that, because it's a true story. As baby boomer myself, I'm trying to understand how the world has evolved since I was 3 years old. What's the difference? And that's also part of this story. My parents, they didn't have cell phones. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have cable TV. They didn't have remotes. I was my dad's remote. He said, son, go change the channel. That's how we grew up. My parents' definition of discipline is quite different than the discipline of the parents of today. And which one is better? I'll let your listeners answer that question. But so that's why I wrote this book, because it was a chance to really explore all.
The author of I Don't Want to Turn 3 is listed as Gramps Jeffrey. How does Marc Joseph become Gramps Jeffrey?
My grandkids call me Gramps, and I found it very early on that Gramps was probably the easiest to say. Sometimes they said Gramps before they said mom and dad. They all call me Gramps, and my middle name is Jeffrey, and I spell it Jeffrey. And for the life of me, my wife always spelled it the wrong way, the other way, because it's spelled it Ery. So I figured if I put it on a book, that she'll finally learn how to spell my middle name. So she spells it now. She spells it right. So that's how I became Gramps Jeffrey.
Okay. You won an award for that book from the Moms Association, the Mom's Choice Award. In what category?
The category was in learning and understanding. And so it was a book for toddlers and how they process the learning, because that's what it's about. The book is about at what age do we really take responsibility for our actions? Is it 3 years old? Is it 13 years old? Is it 23? I know plenty of 63-year-olds that still don't take responsibility for action. So that's really what the book's about.
So it is designed as a book for a grandparent or a parent to read to a child. It's not a nonfiction book that you're trying to figure out how to raise a child.
Yeah, exactly. It's about the story basically is one of the Jordan, who is turning 3, takes all of his cousin's toys and he hides them, and they finally find them. And on his birthday, they found them. And so the father gets all the kids together and say, what are we going to do here? We've got all these toys. He stole them, all that. And the oldest cousin, who is 8, Olivia, they are having a drive for the homeless people here in town. And she says, why don't we give them all to the homeless people? And that's what they did. And so that's what happened all during the story of this book.
So you're encouraging people to be contributors to their society and their neighborhoods, etc., through that.
Yeah, through the book and through the website too. What are you going to do to help others? Because there's plenty of departments on that. The volunteers we have a big volunteering, and so that's what we have to do. Once you're near retirement, what are you going to do with your time? And how are you going to help others? And that's the question we all have to ask.
You wrote a second book. This one was nonfiction, which is designed to help business owners. Tell us about that book.
Yeah, the book is The Secrets of Retailing, How to Beat Walmart. In an earlier life, I started the internet business. It became the premier business-to-business site on the internet, where we sold in case quantity to small businesses all around the world, shipped in all the 50 states, around 34 countries. Our customer base were the moms and the pops who were surviving and thriving against the chain.
Mm-hmm.
So this, as we were growing the business, I was getting calls all the time from entrepreneurs. How do I do this? What do I do that? So this book is the 15 chapters, and each chapter is about if you're an entrepreneur, what do you do? So one chapter is how do you hire your people? Another chapter is how do you find your location? Another chapter is where do you find your products? Another chapter is about marketing, both online and traditional marketing. And the last chapter is an exit chapter. What do you do when you're done? How do you sell your business? That's what the book's all about. It's for entrepreneurs who really want to grow a business.
What did you do for a living?
I was early on, I was in the retailing. I was with some major department stores. And then I went into the off-price business and became with the discount stores. And then I became a supplier that supplied all these stores with products. That's what I did. I was in the retail world.
Are you still doing that now, or are you retired from that?
I'm retired from that and put my heart and soul into babyboomer.org.
Oh, you had the opportunity to start over again. Is there anything you do differently, especially after turning 50?
Interestingly, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. Both my dads and my uncles and my grandfathers, they were all entrepreneurs. And could have gone into their business, but I decided, no, I got to go do something on my own. Because family businesses are great, and I'm not knocking them at all. They're great. But I just wanted to go do something on my own. And so the choice I had at the time was go into a family business or do something on your own. And so I guess now that I'm over 50, did I make the right decision? I feel I did.
Do you have any advice for people over 50 who are trying to figure out what to do to give their lives greater purpose or have more impact with others in their daily lives?
What's interesting is my wife is 72 years old, and you would think at 72 years old, you say, hey, you're done. Let's do something. But she's an occupational therapist, and she loves working, and she loves it because she's helping people. And so when she gets up in the morning and goes to work, she knows that what she can do will really be helping others. So if you decided that you're not going to continue working in your profession, no matter what profession it is, you should step back a second and say, what can I do to help others? How can I take all of this knowledge that I've learned over the 40, 50 years that I've been doing this? And what can I do? Can I volunteer? Can I do that? Can I, if I'm an entrepreneur, can I help other entrepreneurs who are starting out, help them with their business? Yeah. Always be thinking, because playing golf every day and playing pickleball every day, and that can get boring after a while. So what are you doing to contribute to help others? That's the question you should be asking yourself. Because we all have our own specialties. We all grew up learning something. And again, with this youngest generation who are much smarter than we are on the internet and all that, yeah. But let's make sure that they understand some of the practicality of life so they don't make the same mistakes we did. If you can help people not make the same mistakes you did, what better world this is?
That's right. You had your wife is working at 72 years of age, and I find that just wonderful because so many seasoned citizens are forced out of jobs at 60, 55, etc. So she's continuing to work, and that gives her purpose. I like that. What about people who feel that they are forced out of jobs or that they're just not, they're stuck in careers that they're going nowhere, and they realize that they're just putting in time until society tells them that they can retire?
Again, when you hit that point, you got to figure out, what can I do in the nonprofit world that could help others? Whether it's the homeless or food shelters or things that you can do to volunteer, give your time. Because there's plenty of, all of us have been frustrated someplace in our careers. If you haven't been, then you're not telling the truth. So knowing that that's going to happen, what can you do now that can help others? And volunteering is something we should all be doing.
I agree. That's a good point.
Where you could do, like, I'm a substitute teacher to the local middle school and high school. It's not because I got a teaching background. It's not because I'm looking to get paid every time I go to teach, which they do pay you, but it's because there's a shortage of teachers here in Arizona. What can we do? And again, I'm not an educational background, but I know how to teach. How can we may not, why don't we all become substitute teachers? Can you imagine how that would help our school systems?
I can imagine. I think a lot of people our age are reluctant to go into a school and be a substitute teacher because they don't think they can connect with the kids, but apparently you do.
Yeah, these kids, they're just looking for direction and help. And as long as you can relate to them, as long as they don't have their cell phones out all day, you can relate to them.
Exactly. What do you teach?
Whatever they need.
Okay.
So I'm a true substitute.
A true substitute, whatever. You could be teaching music classes one day and history the next.
Yeah, my favorite so far has been gym. I love teaching gym.
Really?
That's great. Going out there and playing, but I like the English too.
Okay. Do you have any plans to write more books?
Possibly, I'm looking on the book. I don't want to turn 4. This is called a turn 3. What's very interesting, and it just happened in the last month. My granddaughter, who is now 12, she says, "Gramps, let's write a book that I don't want to turn 13." I said, "Why don't you want to turn 13?" She says,
Yeah.
"I'm going to have to learn how to drive in 3 years. I don't know if I really want to do that." And she says, so that's something that I don't want to do. And then I got to start thinking about college. I said, "That's 5 years away. Why are you worried about that?" She says, "I got to start worrying about that." She says, "I don't know if I want to turn 13. Let's write a book about that." So in reality, we can write a book. I don't want to turn 21. I don't want to turn 60. I don't want to turn 70. There's all kinds of things that we could be doing.
I agree. A book like I Don't Want to Turn 60 would be very good because so many people are afraid of that. They think that it's the end of their life. And it's actually the beginning of what is likely to be the best chapter of their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you get to see all 6 of your grandkids on a regular basis?
I get to see 4 of them regularly, and then 2 of them live in Florida. So we go over there probably at least once a quarter, if not more.
Okay. I've interviewed people in the past, or a woman who was starting cousin camps. Have you ever heard of that?
No, that's interesting.
Well, that gets an opportunity to bring all of the cousins together from around the country, because many times they're separated, for 1 week with grandpa and grandma, just to hang out with each other and to have fun. And I think that would
great idea.
I think so too. That would be a wonderful thing to explore for a seasoned citizen. Super. How if somebody wanted to be a contributor to Baby Boomer, what can they do to connect with you?
Yeah, just reach out to me. My email is Marc, MARC, @babyboomer.org, or go onto the site. You'll see some information there. Or they can get my Gmail address is grampsjeffrey@gmail.com.
Okay.
So either one of those would be great. I'd love to. We are looking for experts. And if you are an expert in your field, please reach out to me.
Do people have to be contributors, have their own website, etc., or can they be producing content just for you folks?
No, what we do, again, this is the internet, so it's
Right.
very automated. So we pick up your RSS feed, which means that you need to have a website for that to happen.
Okay.
The articles that you write or blogs you do or podcasts that you do, they just need to be on an RSS feed so we can pick them up automatically. That way, every day when you publish something, it's automatically sent to us. We don't have to call you.
Yep. It's very convenient for me. That's for sure. So thank you again for sharing your story and for talking to us about babyboomer.org. I was unaware that existed until you approached me about submitting our podcasts and future stories to your organization and your site.
That's our goal next year. We have got to let the world know who we are. So anyways, you can help us. That would be great because we think we've got the best content there is. Now we just got to let the world know that it's there.
It is certainly a variety of content. That's for sure. It covers every gamut of being a baby boomer, from recreation to medical information to bucket list stuff. I just was perusing that category a couple of days ago and thought it's fascinating information. So thanks for putting it all together for us.
You got it. Well, thanks for having me.
I enjoyed Marc Joseph's vision for helping baby boomers to leave better legacies for their families and their communities. The baby boomer generation has had tremendous impact on the world their entire lives. It's sad to think that influence is being reduced because people in that generation are not investing their skills and knowledge into helping others. Marc was motivated to write his children's book, I Don't Want to Turn 3, because he felt baby boomers had a tremendous opportunity to influence the lives of younger generations by sharing stories of their own lives. They can have greater impact by showing kids what they can do besides spending all their time staring at screens. Even if baby boomers spend just 20 minutes reading stories to kids, they can greatly influence the young lives by inspiring them to try new things and learn essential skills like concentration and self-discipline. More importantly, the kids learn how to think instead of what to think about. Marc also describes what the babyboomer.org website offers to people in that generation that other websites like AARP does not. One feature is the vast number of independent content creators who are preparing articles and podcasts that can be found on the website. As a result, babyboomer.org becomes a one-stop shop for information and advice of interest to that generation. Marc wrote another book titled The Secrets of Retailing: How to Beat Walmart, which describes how he developed a successful online business. He said it became the premier book for helping mom-and-pop stores to compete with big-box retailers. He also talks about finding purpose as a substitute teacher, which is something he said other baby boomers can do to leave an impact on younger generations. Marc is planning to co-author another book with his 12-year-old granddaughter about not wanting to turn 13 because that's when kids start taking on more responsibility and begin to think about potential careers. To connect with Marc, visit www.babyboomer.org or email him at marc@babyboomer.org. He said he's always looking for quality content creators to generate material for the website. That's all I have for this week's show. If you'd like help in identifying a purpose for your life or to get help planning your next steps, I'm offering a complimentary brainstorming session to members of the Forward from 50 Facebook community. For details, connect with me on Facebook or visit www.forwardfrom50.com. I'll have another inspirational interview on the next episode of the Forward from 50 podcast. Thanks for listening. If you like this show, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.